Oh, the future's here. Everybody ready? Still today, one of every 27th user in Finland is using Internet Explorer 11. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah. That's kind of sad, but still amazes me. Yeah, I'm talking about CSS, so this is kind of relevant if somebody recognizes the past Internet Explorer. Yes. How many of you have used CSS in your work? So, okay. This topic is kind of something that matters. Hi, my name is Joonas Kallunki. I'm front-end developer at Kofore. I'm here to talk about CSS. These features I'm going to talk about are a bit complex, but I try to give you some examples that are trying to be not too complex, kind of short and simple. Why do I need CSS? Time for a page to be interactive is smaller with UI started by CSS than JavaScript. So we are achieving for the user patience. Here is slides. Because browser won't render any processed content until the CSS sum is constructed. Browsers optimize HTML and CSS as much as possible. And transform and opacity animations can be completely offloaded to GPU instead of the CPU. Those are the reasons, kind of. But maybe we go to the examples and different kind of topics. My first topic is CSS Grid. How many of you have used CSS Grid? Yeah? A lot of money? Yeah. Sounds good. Maybe you know it more than me, but yeah. There's the browser support for the CSS Grid. So it's like from the last year, a lot. And all mobiles have now support. Even Samsung Internet has the support. No Opera Mini, but don't care about that. And for the Internet Explorer, there's a good article how to make it happen. Just have to. I give you links later. But it's using auto prefixer, the newest auto prefixer. It is responsive by the design. And use it together with Flexbox and other goodies. It doesn't take any away from you, and it's a kind of new tool. Actually, you can kind of get rid of the bootstrap grid with the CSS Grid because it's more great. But here's an example. Basic HTML. We have a grid container, items, and the items contain images of these icons. And defining the grid with CSS. Display grid. Then we have this template columns that says repeat unspecified number of columns. Fit currently available columns into the space. Minimum of 60 pixels and maximum of 1 fraction unit of the available space. Set implicitly created rows height to 100 pixels. Was I too fast? Did you understand it? Okay, maybe we can look at it again. So, here's the CSS. Grid template columns. Repeat unspecified number of columns. Fit the auto fit. Fit the currently available columns into the space. And then there's the min-max. Minimum of 60 pixels and maximum of 1 fraction unit of the available space. So the fraction unit is kind of new, and it's kind of like the columns you used to have with 12 columns at the bootstrap grid, but the fraction is much greater. You have to kind of look for more. But yeah, there's you. I'm resizing the browser. You have 3 lines of CSS. You have full responsive grid. It's easy. Why shouldn't you use it? Okay. Sorry? Yeah. Maybe it's that. You create the file. I'll come back to that later. But we progress on. I go to the next topic. It's a CSS custom properties, also known as CSS variables. Yeah. A browser support there. We don't have Internet Explorer support for the custom properties. Yeah, that's kind of sad. You have to. And the syntax is what we want, sausage, what we get, variable function, and dash what we want. So what we get the sausage. You understand? Those can be like within the same class or element, or like going from the upper to the deeper. It's declarative, no imperative order of operations, so you cannot assign a CSS variable to itself, like you are when you're doing JavaScript and so on. I come to that also a bit later. How do you do it properly? But can be redefined with inline styles dynamically. For example, you are implementing a mouse coordinates, a scroll position, or user input with JavaScript. I'll come to back that also. And there's also this environment variable function that came to Safari, and it's handy for setting the iOS safe area. There's a kind of just example of padding the safe area in the top. Yeah. But examples. Here's the history of these custom properties. We have a color, and then we are setting the border color to be the current color. So you see, we have the same text color and the border color. This is from the Internet Explorer 9. So have you used this? Yeah. You can do it for the Internet Explorer. But going further, for the block 2 and for the element, we are setting a border to be variable function dash border, and for the for the default value for the border, we are setting it to be initial. How to spell? That's really English. Because it would inherit as it default to the deeper. So now we get the white border to the block 2 element, but the element inside it doesn't get it because we are setting it to initial. But the next step is kind of sorry, this was kind of setting the border, the white border. But the next step is kind of setting class inherit border. So the block 2 gets a white border, and the default for the variable is initial. And when we want to inherit, we inherit the border. This is just one example of like using this, because you can use it many ways. Next example. There's a simple HTML. And you can see that I have inline styles that say kind of setting the variable dash rain, some meanings. And there's the CSS. Usually with CSS variables we are using this kind of root that represents the HTML element, but the specificity is higher. And then we are using the inline style rain CSS variable to calculate a percent at the element using the calc function that is from the CSS. I don't remember how much it was supported, but if you are using CSS variables, it's supported. So the calc function is kind of the thing that you need when you are doing operations to these variables. And when you go to the JavaScript, you just say style set property dash rain to be something. So now you have a kind of going from the JavaScript to the CSS, and it has a variable doing at the runtime. Oh, I'm going a bit fast, but let's go to the next topic, supports, ad supports. Does anyone know about anything about this? Few hands, yeah. I tried to come up like a building something that what I have already introduced to kind of with these things later on. So I'm going a bit fast now, but there's the support for process for ad supports, and this is kind of the trick. For the Internet Explorer, degrade gracefully. So that's the kind of the point for the ad supports too. It doesn't support it. You create something and you check for the supports to have for the other process. It's called feature query, and the syntax is ad supports, feature condition, and styles. It's kind of the same. I think some of you have used media query for the responsive stuff, so it's kind of the same kind of syntax. All browsers that support CSS Grid supports. So, when I'm doing a CSS Grid, I also have the supports to kind of check if the browser can handle the CSS Grid. I have examples here. Yeah. There's my grid for the Internet Explorer and so on. I need the display block or something fallback. But you can actually dismiss that if the layout is kind of accessible but not so fancy. It's kind of, yeah, these elements seen here, yeah. You decide, do you need to create a fallback or not? And then going to the supports. Feature query, display grid. Does the browser understand display grid? Oh, sorry. And then we are generating the grid again with display grid. So everything that you put there, you can put like a float left or something silly also, like with the media queries. And the browsers that don't support grid, dismiss it totally. You can put like a body background red. Yeah, we have red background when we have a grid support. And the Internet Explorer says, yeah, this is white. Yeah. Here's something about the degrade gracefully. We have like a link hover before. It has a border that is coming when you hover it. And there's a gray 8-pixel solid border. Degrade gracefully. Ta-dang! Use the supports. Feature query variable definition. And for the custom for the CSS variable, you can use kind of any like dash CSS variables. Doesn't mean anything, doesn't come from anywhere. So it's just testing for the browser. Does it understand this? Dash web dev is something because we aren't using that the same inside here. So link hover has the color, hover color, and link hover before border left color is the hover color. And we need to set the default value when at least when generating colors, because if we left the gray and the number that is kind of blue, don't use them there, it's transparent. If we, when the hover color, dash hover color is undefined, it's going to be transparent. That's, yeah, I don't know why they make it that, but even though we have the solid gray at the top, if we have used the variables function, it's not going to fall back to the top one. You have to need to have the kind of default value. And yeah, we have Google that is going to use hover color, something like red. It's going both to the text and to the border. And Yahoo hover color. This is kind of simple example how to make kind of themes and so on. But this is only a one solution how to use. You can kind of create the defaults differently, and you can kind of create kind of mixing like, because the hover color is set once and it's going both to the border and the text. Does anybody understand? Yeah? How do I get smooth animation from the GBO? Have you done much animations with CSS or with JavaScript? Maybe few. This is a simplified version because the topic is kind of large. Composing the images of cached elements. Okay, here's some rules. Each browser vendor implements its own way, so it's hard to kind of test and define what's the repainting is very performance costly. If you have to repaint kind of the whole document or something, yeah. The size of the composing layer is likely to be more important than the number of layers. So when you have a large, not to be large, but have like a JPEG image, and you are animating some kind of rotating it or something, and the JPEG image is decoded to the raw data and then sent to the GPU. It takes a lot of memory and it kind of progress lagging. But if you choose a small SVG, send it to the GPU and then kind of scale it up, it's taking less memory and kind of faster. Make sure animation does not affect document's flow, depend on document flow, cause a repaint. So when we have elements on the HTML document, they are stuck to beside each other. So if I'm moving an element there and the other elements need to move, you are repainting the whole document. It's going to be kind of We have solutions, yeah. Transform and opacity are the only CSS properties that meet the condition above. And when you are using JavaScript to do animations and you want to implement CSS, kind of to get the animation from the threads that are used for the JavaScript compilation, not compilation, the JavaScript kind of processing time, to the GPU, you can use at CSS adds will change transform, and with the JavaScript then use elements.style. I have some example coming, but not yet, so hold on your horses. CSS filters. We need this for the example. No browser support for the Internet Explorer, and for the Edge, it's kind of upcoming. Don't know yet. It's may vary on the and there's SVG filters. I think they are more supported, but this is kind of CSS presentation, so I don't go there. But here's a simple example. My GUI example. With the HTML, we have a container dots. They have a few dots there, and then we have this mover that is kind of moving over the. It's using position absolute and so on, but not moving with the absolute. But it's kind of taken away from the document flow. And here's the CSS. There's a familiar route setting those colors and but the main part is this filter, blur, and contrast. So actually, the one line there is the kind of point of this. There's an animation with the transform. Translate x0 or translate x something. If you want to get the kind of most of it, you don't use percent there because the percent is based on the document flow or the parent container or something. You use the pixels, but yeah, just moving the ball. But the filter, you need one line to get it kind of gooey. And the imagination is up to you. What do you use and make with kind of menus that explode and so on. I didn't have the time to create those kind of examples, sorry. Okay. This is kind of, I don't have any more examples, but it is kind of for the future. CSS Houdini. They have already they published the first info about 2015. They are bringing the APIs to process CSS engines. So if a browser doesn't support some CSS property that you are using, then you could use JavaScript to implement it straight to the CSS engine of the browsers. This is going like, what the fuck? But it's like you can create properties to CSS that are basically your own. None of the browsers need to support it, because you have a API to process CSS engines. You can like code with the JavaScript. Yeah, this was kind of fast slideshow, but thank you. Let's continue from here. You can ask me questions kind of personally, because I don't know how I can answer this kind of wide area. but you find me on Twitter, and there's some awesome CSS links related to these topics that I kind of gathered for you to, if you want to look for more info. Did anyone you kind of would you like to try out these features that you haven't tried out? Anyone? Yeah, few hands. Okay. So I didn't totally lost you. This is kind of too fast maybe, but yeah, thanks.
You gotta get your stuff. Thank you, that was a nice Web Dev Sausages debut. We need our CSS gurus to come now and again. And you too get this amazing bottle of beer. Thank you for presenting. And your happy or not swag bag. Yes, thank you again. Thanks, all right, so we have one last presentation, but naturally we'll let you get some air and whatever else